Oh my God, I'm so excited to interview you today.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. I'm
Mhm.
Heidi Carter, and I'm here with my dear client, Jonna Juul-Hansen, who is a broker associate and mom and
Mhm.
artist in town in Austin, Texas.
Hi
And hello
there.
and welcome.
Thanks for having me. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you and hear about kind of your version of the story of what happened when we worked together in Sacred Wealth Design.
Mhm.
John and I worked together privately in Sacred Wealth Design, and then took a little break. And then when I started my membership, she came back and joined. And then we probably have another chapter of private coaching for us at some point too.
Mhm.
But Jonna, will you just share a little bit about what were some of the problems that you were facing when we began coaching together?
So for one, I want to say that I was originally introduced to you, I don't know, a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago. I would say 15 at least years ago.
Yeah.
And so maybe 20, honestly, probably 20. And
Yeah.
then I kind of followed your career, and I think I saw you speak somewhere, and I just kept kind of following and just kind of looking and following and watching your post. And then it was COVID. And so, so it was COVID around August. And if you remember, everything stopped, obviously, in 2020. The second quarter of real estate, first quarter was great. Second quarter came to a screeching halt. And then it picked back up on third quarter. So
Yeah.
I wasn't in a position having to, one at a very expensive Eastern school, one child, and another one about to go to, being applying for colleges. And plus just my monthly, I wasn't in a position to not make money. And that was what I was facing. And
Yeah.
my business model, which still does work, but as realtors, as anyone who's an entrepreneur, there are certain things that you are supposed to do to get business. And now it was COVID, and so a lot of those things just weren't really respectful or even realistic to be, like you're supposed to, call, not only write your gratitudes and show up with a positive attitude, write your handwritten notes, call 50 people a week, make interview calls, all of this sort of typical salesy kind of traditional ways of building
Yeah.
your business.
Yeah.
And as much as, yes, we were calling people to see how they were doing, our clients, how are you doing during COVID? They were exhausted. A lot of them, yes, we're happy to get the calls. Other were like, I mean, they just didn't have the bandwidth to do anything except survive the moment with their family and their children on Zoom, classes, and it just couldn't be done the same way. And
Yeah.
I was at a real turning point of like, what am I going to do? I get it's COVID. I'm not in a position not to make money, period.
Yeah. Because you're
And
a single
so,
mom,
yeah, just, it
yeah,
wasn't, it's like, so COVID couldn't be the excuse.
right.
So I called you and I'm like, what am I going to do? Look
Yeah.
at this thing. I'm supposed to do all this stuff every day. I can't
Uh-huh.
do it anymore. You're like, okay, take that paper and you don't have to throw it away, Jonna, but those 10 things or 9 things you're supposed to do every day that you've been trained to do, now we're going to take it off the wall. I literally had it like plastered to my, board. I go to look at it every day.
Yeah.
You're like,
Of course you
take it
did.
down, put it
Mhm.
to the side. We're not doing that anymore. And I'm not saying you can't get back to doing that, but you're not doing it for these 4 months that we're going to be coaching together.
Oh,
And
I was
so,
really directive there like that.
yeah. And I said, that was really scary.
Yeah.
So we did something different, which was your spiritual coaching. And wow, you said, okay, what would have you want to pay this, my fee? I'm like, if I can deposit from today $100,000 at the end of the 4 months into my account, that's 100,000 cash dollars into my account, it would be worth it. And to the day, or let's say within 1 or 2 days of the end of the 4 months, I deposited $100,000 into my account.
That's
enough
so
of our
wild.
minds.
I make this shit
So I'm
up right
like,
now.
okay, this what is it? TSW.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
and
I remember because I work a lot with inner guides, like the different sub personalities within us that, like our higher self or inner child, the inner CEO. But I just remember that you were so stressed out and had been operating your business from what seemed like a really stressed out place for a very long time.
mhm,
And then we discovered your inner guide garden. Do you remember?
yes, thank you for reminding me about her too.
Yeah, and garden was just like, I want to go out and look at the flowers. I want to lay on the hammock. And so I remember challenging you to take a day off, I think it was. And you
Mhm.
were
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm not taking a day off. Like, no way. But then you did. Do you remember when you did
Yeah.
that? What happened for you when you?
Well, I just remember like coming up with garden and realizing like if I had a garden, which would I be watering it the same way every single day? Like pouring the water on because that's what the instructions say. Supposed to
Mhm.
water,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day. And if not, you're going to till. And if not, you're going to plant more seeds right next to it. And if not, you're going to do, if not, so that's what I think we discover. It's like, no, the garden has to breathe, then the sun
Mhm.
comes out and you water it once a week. And it was just so much more relaxed, allowing the actual, vegetables in the garden to grow.
Right.
Not stare
Because
at them and see if they're growing. Like literally, are you growing? And that's what I used to do to my transactions. Like, how many
yeah.
transactions do I have? And I literally would wake up counting my commission checks in my head, even before I made them, or how many do I have coming, or how many do I have next month? And I would do math all day long.
Yeah. And you
And
were just like physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted, is what I remember.
yeah, I was totally exhausted.
Hmm.
I mean, it
Yeah,
was
because it's
COVID
like,
too, it didn't
I
matter. I was
think,
so exhausted.
what's that?
I said it was COVID. We were all exhausted, but it wouldn't have
Right.
mattered. I mean, because the year before and the year before, I mean, I functioned this similar way.
Yeah. I mean, what a blessing that COVID happened and that you did the coaching and that you created a new way of doing business. I think many of us, freaked out when COVID happened. I certainly did for a month or so, like who's going to pay for coaching during COVID? Little did I know, like people needed coaching more than ever during COVID. But
Mhm.
anyways, I think I so relate to what you're saying and operated my business that way for years as well before shifting. And I think it's like when we are like overusing that achievement muscle for whatever reason, a lot of us come to that decision for a lot of different reasons. But when we're overusing that achievement muscle, it just becomes like this frenetic energy that's just exhausting. And I think what we're cutting off is we're cutting off our intuition.
Mhm.
And in the slow, we can hear, we can see, we can perceive. I wonder if that resonates with you at all.
Yes, definitely. Um, I mean, it does resonate with me, and it's still a challenge for me to slow down,
Yeah.
mainly because the industry in Austin, the real estate industry, is so darn fast that we have to be on our toes.
Right.
So, but yes, it absolutely resonates with me. And I, especially when we started doing the coaching, it gave me an opportunity to really slow down and just hear not only like my intuition, but just really like it highlighted my fears,
Mm-hmm.
like the things
Mm-hmm.
that had really been stopping me from taking my business to the next level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Which you're totally doing now. I'm so proud of
mhm,
you. Like, it's
thank you.
amazing what you're creating now. I mean, I won't get into it on this call, but if you
Mhm,
don't know Jonna Juul-Hansen, like get to
mhm,
know her. She's amazing.
thank you.
Um, so how do you feel like all the work that we did together, how did it affect, let's start with just like mindset and emotions, like that aspect of it.
Well, just, you know, you always say, and what you taught me early on is your clients are not your money source. Your transactions are not your money source.
Amen.
So that was new because it was hard. It's like, what do you mean? They're not my money source. Look at this is how much commission I'm making if I do this transaction, that transaction. So for one, it took the pressure off my poor transactions and
Right.
as being my money source. So I could just
Mhm.
be there for them and, in a way that was not attached to them being my money source.
Right.
So literally, like, I slept so much better. I didn't wake up thinking about the money that I needed and all the bills I had to pay and wasn't going to make enough
Mhm.
money. I
Yeah.
woke up connecting to my money spirit guide, which
Yeah.
is coral reef, and waking up painting and just visualizing coral reef and how abundant and all the beautiful colors. And so it flipped my brain from staring at my transactions and my buyers and
Mhm.
sellers to connecting with my money source.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
relaxed me in a way that
Yeah.
was relaxed it was my nervous system. My nervous system was completely jacked up, and it relaxed my nervous system.
Yeah. And I do want to like add to this just for anyone that's considering coaching, money coaching. I do want to be really honest and say, like, whatever it took to create that overachieving and that frenetic activity and that fear and that lack, where you're just working all the time and thinking your clients are your source. Um, like when you start doing the coaching, you start to shift. But I want to be so clear, it takes work on your part, right? Because the old conditioning is going to continue to pop up even as you're shifting.
Mhm.
The old conditioning will pop up again because it's just like it's in your brain. It's like that pathway in your brain is just so well worn. And
Mhm.
so I think the awareness is so huge. And I really saw you master your awareness because in the beginning you were having these huge shifts and then the old conditioning would come right back up. You'd want to go right back to overworking. But I
Mhm.
saw over time you cultivating that awareness, like, oh, there I go again, and then coming back to meditating and connecting to money spiritually, which opened you back up. But I just say that because I don't want anyone to think, oh yeah, one session and it was all resolved. It takes work, it's not just what the coach is doing, it's also what the client is doing. And I think that's one of the reasons you were such an amazing client, because you always showed up to the calls, you always did the homework, you were practicing the things, you were sharing the times when you still wanted to go back to the old way of doing things, not because it was working, but just our fear tells us that our fear is like, hey, that's the comfort zone, let's go back.
Oh
you
yeah, and
know
plus all of my coach, like not my coaching, but company coaching and just industry coaching, you're inundated by what you're supposed to do or how you can achieve success as a realtor. So I had to kind of back out of some of those calls. I had to put the earmuffs on
yeah.
for that period of time because it's so easy to go back,
Yeah.
and my colleagues were like, wow, John, you're doing so well. I'm like, I'm doing something different. It's called money spirit coaching.
Right. Yeah,
What?
because otherwise you're just, we all could just become workaholics. And then what's the point of life?
No,
If,
yeah, it
if we're
is.
just always in stress and always working, like what is the point of all the money that we're bringing in, right?
Mhm.
And so, but that has to be balanced with our drive and our up leveling and our opening up to more abundance. So we're not trying to shut the abundance down just to go hang out on the hammock all day long every day. Like we're still taking action. So it really is like a balancing act.
Mhm.
But well,
Yeah.
how would
I think I'm back to like where I am now as I have incorporated, the actions from that I know, are important, obviously,
right?
based on my clients and all of that, but it's now much more balanced.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a very personal question, so feel free to answer it or not. But like, once we got you really connected spiritually to money and you were starting to have a better mindset and balancing your work and play more. And then I was like, hey, now it's time to look at your finances.
Mhm.
And I remember you're like, great.
Mhm.
Like, do you want to share, like, how did your perspective on your actual finances shift?
Well, that is an ongoing challenge
Yeah,
for me
yeah,
because I have very um, very high expenses, having two kids
yeah,
in college. So, and out of state. So it's a lot of like, if you really, I think the challenge is for me has constantly been when I look at the numbers, it can be challenging to,
mhm,
I have to have a lot of faith, because I am
right,
committed to paying for their undergrad. So, but one of the like very, very effective tools that you shared with me was doing the envelopes in my bank account.
yeah,
And although I don't have envelopes at Frost, I've created a lot of different accounts. And
yeah,
I used to just keep my money in a business account and a personal account. And I would constantly have to do math on, okay, what I have, X number, but really I have to back out 20,000 for taxes and blah, blah, blah. And also like doing this, have to do this math when I look
mhm,
at my number to figure out. And so creating those different accounts and putting the money like as it
yeah,
comes into those accounts
right,
has freed up so much mental anxiety and mental
mhm,
and math gymnastics on a daily basis.
yeah,
Like I mean, just that tool alone was huge for me
yeah.
and
I
is
mean,
huge.
this is so huge for women in particular, because women our age, like, we're shifting so much, and the women coming up, younger than we are going to shift it so much more too, right? But generations behind us, women weren't taught to look at finances. Women were discouraged from looking at the numbers. Women were not, and if research shows that women, girls, they're not encouraged in math. Boys are way more encouraged in math. And we're not, for what I do for simple finances, it's not that hard of math. I think there's a block that a lot of people have towards finances and doing the math. I actually am obsessed with it now. I used to be afraid of it too. I used to like avoid it, and it caused all these problems. I think that's the thing, right? Is like the anxiety creates the avoidance, and
Mhm.
the avoidance creates more anxiety, because when we don't know that what is there and what's coming and like what's happening, our brain makes up, this narrative that's a nightmare.
Yeah. And I
Because
think that
our
that
brains
was
are here to protect us, number one,
mhm.
right? And so our brains are kicking off, okay, this sounds dangerous. I'm going to go ahead and protect you with this fear.
Yeah. And I think also too, like the not knowing makes it worse. Like you said, John, if you just look at your numbers, you may it will actually take the anxiety away. And I made up the story that if I look at my numbers, it's going to be so bad, I'm going to have more anxiety,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
that wasn't, it isn't the case,
Yeah,
typically. And it gives me like, oh, okay, we need to create X dollars in the next 3 months,
yeah,
okay, money spirit guide, let's go for that. And it just gets, it's just more realistic and on the court. And it's kind of like not doing your taxes. You think about it for 364 days of the year and you,
right,
create so much anxiety, then you do it, you pull it all nighter and you're like, oh, that wasn't bad,
right,
it's done.
right. And that's, I mean, another reason why I liked working with you, because you had so much courage to
Yeah.
face your biggest fears of looking, and you did. And it's amazing. It's amazing as a mom what you're doing for your kids too. You're so committed to them. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of your big whys with money and income is your kids. And that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Thank you.
But anything else that the mindset shift impacted, like any relationships in your life or just anything else at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think that just in general, like not even in general, but specifically, like when we were coaching on the money and my business, there was also my acting. I'm an actress and on occasion, I like to do films and television. And
Mhm.
create my own projects as well. And
Mhm.
so during that 4 months, not only did I make, this is super important to know, not only did I make the $100,000 that I deposited in the 4 months, but I also shot a feature.
That was
And
awesome. I love
that,
that.
that ended like at the 4 months as well. So, I mean, I was out in Colorado shooting a feature where I was the lead, and it was an amazing experience. And so I
Mhm.
was not only doing all this business and relaxed and rehearsing for a feature and shooting the feature
Yeah.
and all of that. And then on the heel, so that was like, oh, you mean I don't only have to like create great success in my business, I can also create it in my, my secondary dreams.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not just one track, because
Mhm.
and not only that, but then I wasn't in a relationship, and on the heels of that film, I met someone that invited me to do some work in creating the love of your life. And so I was like, I don't really care about the love of my life. I've got my business and my film work and my friends.
Mhm.
She's like, no, no,
Mhm.
no, just do it. So then I was just having, like, I think the success of knowing that the spirit is actually the source, be it
Yeah.
money source or my film work source or my friendship source. Oh, maybe
Right.
spirit can create this. So I did this work,
Mhm.
and then 7 months later, the week that I finished the book, I created a love of my life. So it just
Mhm.
opened, it shifted my brain from, oh, and by the way, when I said I'm going to create the love of my life, it was like, oh, and by the way, I will only go on one, I'm not going online. So again, the
Yeah.
way that it's done by everyone else, like, or by a lot of people, a lot of people think you have to go to do 1,000 dates online. It's like, no, let's just do this money spirit guy. You know what I mean? Like, shift it.
Right.
And it was one blind date. So I think it shifted, like, not only my mindset and my business, but in my dreams and in, creating relationships
Yeah.
all the way around.
Yeah. And I think there's several things on that. I mean, one thing is like, I think what we are talking about, in my perspective, in my opinion, is like your spiritual source, whatever you call that. Like I call it God, some people call it universe or spirit. Like that spiritual source, when you can understand and get into the groove of letting God or universe control everything and funnel everything, that's where the release comes. And it's my opinion that God drops down that symbol of who your money spirit guide is into your brain so that you can connect to your own abundance. That's the way I describe it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're talking about is the difference between pushing and allowing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and especially in American culture, like, business the masculine way, even the toxic masculine way. Sometimes, a lot of times, that was the original model that's shifting now. And so really we're game changers. We're trailblazers to be here at this time to be like, no, we're not pushing anymore. Yes, there is a time to get shit done and like to be on your game. Of course, we're all here to be at our best level, but there's so much value in allowing, and so I think that's one thing I kind of picked up on what you were saying. And the other thing is like creativity, because we do use painting and
Mm-hmm.
art journaling in the process. And I mean, I could go on and on about creativity, but first I'll just ask, what was your experience using the painting to paint your money spirit guide and to paint your abundance?
Well, for one, I'd never picked up a paintbrush, and it scared the hell out of me. My daughter is a incredible painter, and I've watched her paint her whole life. But just picking up the brush, it sounds like, oh, that can't be true. But it was to pick up the brush and to put a dab of paint on it and to put it on a canvas and to even go into Jerry's Artorama. I felt like the biggest fraud, and just like, I'm not even supposed to be in here. I'm not an artist. I don't even know what, honestly, it felt so weird.
Yeah.
So weird. So it, like, just to have there's something about having my arm like paint the creativity, and all of a sudden it went from like here to like here to like here to like here, it was just like, it just opened up my body, I think. And not only it became a meditation, I didn't think about it. And I was like, wait, Heidi said I could use more than 2 colors. Oh, let me try 3. Wait, 4, 5, 6. She said, then you're supposed to get some water and put a rag in it and then take all the paint off. You know, that was like, I couldn't even imagine doing that. And I did it. It's like, you mean I can start over? And that what gave me such freedom. Like, oh, I just screwed up that conversation with the buyer. You mean I can just correct it and do it again?
Yeah.
I can start over. I don't like, just because I screwed it up. So you basically taught me to screw up
Yes.
via the paint and
Yes.
the canvas. Like, you now do not get attached to it. It's like,
Yeah.
don't get attached to that pretty picture. I want you taking it off the canvas now. Just screw it up. It's like, and that was new.
Yeah.
And that was super freeing. And I
Yeah.
used that when I went to do the film too, because, you know, you do multiple takes on a scene.
Right.
And I literally would not, you know, my MO is like, that was a great take. Do that again. Exactly like that. You know, but I use that sort of image of, no, screw it up, screw it up and do something different. So
Yeah.
that to me was one of the most powerful tools that that painting taught me, is to wipe it off the canvas and start it.
Because it's about, well, I mean, first of all, like, you know, when your response to painting is very normal for incoming clients that have not experimented with painting before. And I just tell them, okay, well, you're probably going to end up addicted to Jerry's Artorama, just so you know, because what it is it's about learning how to do risk taking and to, like you said, not caring. And it opens up something within our souls where we're like, oh my gosh, where else have I been holding back and not taking risks and caring so much and trying to control? It's really about letting go of the control. And so I do always say, though, like, for people who are like, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't do that. It's not drawing people and horses.
No.
It's not about that. It's abstract, because I promise you, drawing people and horses would not open you up at all. It would make you want to overwork and erase and do it again, you know? And so it's the abstract that is the opening chord, right?
Yeah, no, it was completely, that opened me up in a way that I never expected. And just again, not being attached to perfection or getting it right, you know, just constantly being willing to screw it up, screw it up, getting comfortable with screwing up.
Yes, that's part of entrepreneurship. You know,
Yeah.
you can never go forward if you're always in your comfort zone. And of course, all of us have to face that within ourselves and continually up level and upgrade our ability to be uncomfortable. And I'm doing that again now this year, you know, getting back into speaking in person and stuff. And, you know, I've just, what I've seen though is so much fulfillment as well as success comes from just jumping into the part that you're so scared of.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think
sometimes we have to have support to do that, because otherwise it feels like we're just flailing around in the wind by ourselves. And it's like, where's the support? That's one of the reasons that people come to me for coaching, or come to any coach for coaching, is because when we feel supported, then we're like, okay, I got this, you know?
Definitely. And then just one other thought on that, screwing it up. There's that one more aspect of that you taught us, or me, and that is to then reveal the colors behind, like, the big mess of wet, you know, like mixture of colors, to reveal. And it's like, okay, let's take what worked, you know, from that screw up, or what you loved, you know, underneath, and then reveal those beautiful colors, you know, and then, you know, go back anyway. So yeah, that was, anyway, sorry to cut you off, but having the support, I mean, no, it's so hard. I mean, you can't get this from a book. You can't get it from reading a book. You can't get it from reading like a meme, online, or you heard
Right.
a friend coach with
Right.
someone and they got this, and there's something about a money spirit guy, and you can't do it. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to have support. You have to have a coach. You have to have your,
Mhm.
this case, you to like, it's a system, and it
Yeah.
takes focus and it takes support to be
Yeah.
successful.
And it can be very scary to invest in what feels like a lot of money for coaching. But what you have to always remember is the ROI. You're going to make so much more money
Mhm.
after you do the coaching, but this time in a way more holistic, creative, fun way,
Yeah, well,
Um,
even just having like, if it's just a matter of, I mean, of course, the money is going to be there, but just like calming the nervous system, how much money do we spend on, therapy and multiple coaches and
yeah.
multiple programs, everything to just calm our
Mhm.
nervous system and wake up, and the building your business and making money and
Yeah.
creative and creating the life you
Mhm.
love.
Yeah. Well, the last question I'll ask is, after this transformation that you went through, like, what do you feel is possible for you in your business and in your life now?
So I just had like a major, I think that the income cap, not to make it all about money, but I've broken through such, I don't really have a cap on income, and I don't have a cap. I may have made last year more money than I could ever dreamed of making. And that's, just to, I might just to say it. I mean, I'm like, right. I haven't made 500,000, but I'm getting damn close.
Mhm.
And this year I'm hoping to, it's just like, I don't even have the cap of 500,000, I
Yeah.
don't have it like 800,000, a million. It doesn't even like, I just have no like constraints on, it's almost like I'm very neutral. It's like, yay, I made whatever I made this year, 420. And oh yeah, I'll make five, whatever. It's just like, I don't
Mhm.
have like any sort of, I'm not making it mean anything, this
Yeah.
number I'm making. And
Right.
it just feels like sky's the limit. But the more important thing is that I'm loving my life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's just really nice not to have any sort of ceiling on what's possible.
Yeah.
And
I
certainly,
personally think that's why the spiritual aspect is so important. And we're so resistant to giving up our finite, brains that have done it and worked. And it's like, yeah, but if you give that up, like, there's infinite abundance out there for you.
yeah, it just seems like completely infinite. There's no, like, there is not a finite amount of money out there, or
Right.
energy out there,
Right.
or or of men out there. There's not,
Yeah.
like the
Right.
whole story, they aren't in Austin, or there's only so many movies being made. It just seems like, no, it's just created. It's created by your inner spirit guide, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was like a complete joy to hear all of this and to be with you today. So thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being a money spirit coach.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone watching. Feel free to comment, and there will be more videos coming. Thanks so much.